most of the issues which have been highlighted before, those have come from the both of worthy speakers, Dr. Vasco and Dr. Asif Anam. Those issues were by and large related with non-traditional security threats. If we look at with the perspective of international relations, we see that the spectrum of security, the discourse of security has been changed from traditional to non-traditional, and all the issues which we are facing in the maritime domain are mostly non-traditional. Yes, traditional security issues are there, those are relevant, and for those issues we are very much in a better position in terms of operational preparedness. But if we look at the non-traditional security threats which have been highlighted before, like overfishing, like IUU, and other issues which are there being faced, like pollution, ship emissions, all these things need a very serious consideration by the state. We talk about sustainability, and we always ignore that oceans and humanity have very strong link. We cannot put them apart, because the humanity, the mankind, we cannot expand to this extent without the connection of the oceans and the expansion of religions, the beliefs, faith, everything is highly indebted to the oceans and the voyagers and the people who used the seas and oceans for commute in those days when the technology was not as advanced as today. But the question is that with the passage of time, are we taking good care of the environment which is here, which is giving us nutrition, which is connecting us, which is here to help us to promote the humanity and all the things, all the good things from which we are benefited? If we look at this domain of non-traditional securities, we see that the basic issues do relate with environment, society, and economy. And if we look at the rest of the two sectors as provided by Barry Bozan and Ola Weber, politics and military, both are relevant, but they are not directly relevant with the maritime domain. Rather, they are a bit indirectly relevant. And another point which I have highlighted was the question of good governance in the oceans, or good ocean governance. That is the point in which we are lacking, and the role which is missing greatly is the role which should be played by the international organizations. We are a little delayed in that domain. Allow me to highlight few of the points in which we see that there are deficiencies. That if you look at the high seas, they cover 64% area. And if we look at volume-wise, that is over 90%. But we do not have enough regulations and lawmaking regarding those high seas which are beyond national jurisdiction. And when we talk about national jurisdiction, do not forget that national jurisdiction is purely there in the 12 nautical mile of your territorial waters. Even within your exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, you have partial jurisdiction, and you do not have 100% jurisdiction. Yes, you are there to use the resources, but you have to follow certain rules and regulations which are there. And in high seas, we see that all these rules and regulations are very much deficient. And there are things which need to be revised with the passage of time, like if we look at the rule in which they have mentioned that the high water mark for deep sea fishing, that has not been changed after 1994. Then if we look at the weak and soft laws, these are there, which are not very much effective for the national hold of those things, and those are creating challenges for law enforcement. If I look at Pakistan and I see the role of all the security agencies which are there, in which Pakistan Maritime Security Agency is on the top, and then there is Coast Guard, which is there, and obviously the Navy is here, which is always very much helpful to these agencies, and wherever they lack in terms of equipment, they are there to help them. But still, this is the area in which we are lagging behind. Because the threat, the volume of challenges, the number of challenges, that is increasing day by day. We have to look at all these things. And maritime security is very much comprehensive. That is not only about threats coming from the enemies. These are the threats coming from the organized blue crime. That is the threat coming from the smugglers. These are the threats coming from the traffickers. These are the threats coming from the people who are using all illegal practices in the seas, which are harming the natural ocean environment. And I think that these are the points on which we need to focus. If we talk about sustainable development goals, that is highly believed that SDG 14 is relevant to the oceans and its resources. But in my opinion, all the SDGs, all 17 sustainable development goals are relevant to the ocean, starting from elimination of poverty till the 17th one. All these goals are very much relevant, and we cannot keep them apart from the ocean development. And there are, again, I was mentioning about soft laws, or the laws which need to be updated, in which there is one international seabed authority which is there at the global level that is working under United Nations, and it was established in 1994, and since then it has never turned down any license request which has been put forward for the seabed mining, despite the fact that all the environmental agencies have been asking to stop this practice, and there must be some kind of regulation and the full stop to these practices which are harming the natural environment. There is a big flaw in that. That is the point where we need to think about, in my opinion, the practices which we are keeping in this domain, in maritime environment and this domain. These practices should be divided in 3 points. First is national practices, which we are doing in our country, and that is not only about Pakistan. All of the countries, they have to look into the flaws. There are gaps in the laws. Not only the national laws, but the support which should be coming from outside in the form of international organizations. The second thing which I see that is lacking, that is regional response. We are not having enough regional response to deal with all these threats. And the third thing is obviously the international response. That needs to be intact, and that needs to be very much effective and relevant to deal with all these things. And the major takeaway which I want to take here is that strengthening of your global response, strengthening of the regional response, and the improvement in the national response, that is very much desire of the day, and that is the thing which is needed to be done today, and that needs to be discussed today. Thank you very much, and I'm not going to take more time than this.